I became a celebrity chef after my family mocked my dreams. Now my brother, ex-husband and in-laws are furious I bought their favorite restaurant and banned them for life. Hey family. Hit that subscribe button, drop a hello in the comments and tell us where in the world you're listening from. Alright, let's continue the story. My hands trembled as I stared at the invitation to my brother Robert's engagement party. The same brother who'd laughed when I enrolled in culinary school at 32. Cooking school, he'd sneered 5 years ago. That's cute, Yasmin. Real cute. What's next, you gonna open a lemonade stand? I remembered standing in my mother's kitchen that day, flour dusting my worn apron, watching her shake her head. Baby, you got 2 kids to feed. This cooking thing is a hobby, not a career. Your husband's right, you need to be realistic. My ex-husband Derek had nodded, his BMW keys jangling as he prepared to leave for his accounting firm. She's living in Fantasyland, Ma. Always has been. Now 5 years later I sat in my downtown loft, that invitation mocking me from the marble countertop. My phone buzzed. Another interview request, this time from a major food magazine. They wanted to feature the culinary genius who'd taken the city by storm. I should have felt vindicated. My restaurant, Heritage, had earned a Michelin star within 18 months. Celebrity clients flew in specifically for my modern soul food fusion. My cookbook had hit the bestseller list 3 months running. But my family? Radio silence. He'll know. Hope you can make it, Robert had scrawled. It's at Mama's table. You know that restaurant you used to rave about? Would mean a lot if you came. Family first, right? I laughed bitterly. Family first. Where was that energy when Derek divorced me, claiming my obsession with cooking had ruined our marriage? When my mother sided with him during the custody battle? My phone rang. My lawyer's name flashed across the screen. Yasmin, he said. We got it. The deal closed. Mama's table is yours. The paperwork sat before me like a declaration of war. Mama's table, the restaurant where my family had celebrated every milestone without me for the past 3 years. Where Robert had his promotion dinner. Where my mother hosted her 65th birthday. Where my in-laws had gathered after my divorce was finalized, toasting to Derek's freedom. I'd heard about it all through my teenage daughter Zara. Dad took us to Mama's table again, she'd say, her voice careful, knowing how it stung. Grandma was there. Uncle Robert too. They asked about you. Twice. They never asked about me. They asked if I'd given up that cooking nonsense yet. My lawyer, Jerome, adjusted his glasses. Miss Hayes, you understand this is a significant investment? $3 million for a struggling establishment in this economy. It's not struggling anymore, I corrected him. The previous owners had nearly run it into the ground, but the location was prime, the bones were good, and most importantly, it held significance to the people who'd broken me. I signed the final document with a flourish that felt like revenge written in ink. That night I called my head chef, Andre. We're expanding. I need you to help me transform a new location. Which one? He asked, excitement bubbling in his thick Creole accent. Mama's table. And Andre? The opening night is in 3 weeks. The same night as Robert's engagement party. The silence on the other end was deafening. Then quietly, Chef, are you sure about this? Was I sure? I thought about my son Cameron's 10th birthday when Robert had said, maybe when your mama grows up and gets a real job, she can actually afford a decent party. I thought about Derek introducing his new girlfriend to my children at that very restaurant while my mother smiled approvingly. I've never been more sure of anything, I whispered, walking into Mama's table as the owner felt surreal. The burgundy wallpaper I'd always admired now belonged to me. The antique chandelier that had witnessed my family's celebrations without me, mine. Every table where they'd shared laughter while I scraped by, working double shifts at a hotel kitchen to fund my dreams, all mine. The current staff eyed me nervously. Is it true? Asked Patricia, the longtime manager who'd served my family countless times. You're really taking over? Effective immediately, I confirmed, setting my portfolio on the bar. And we're making changes. Major ones. I'd done my research. The previous owners had mismanaged finances but kept the staff paid and treated well. I wasn't here to hurt innocent people. Everyone keeps their jobs, I announced. Better pay actually. But there's one non-negotiable requirement. Patricia leaned forward, curious. A permanent ban list. I'll provide the names. These individuals are never to be served here. Not for any amount of money, not for any reason. The room went silent. Patricia's eyes widened as I slid the list across the bar. Robert Hayes. Linda Hayes. Derek Morrison. Richard and Catherine Morrison. My brother. My mother. My ex-husband. My former in-laws. Chef Hayes, Patricia began carefully. These people, they've been regulars here for years. I know, I said coldly. I've been paying attention. A young server named Malik spoke up. I've served them. They're always talking about someone, a family member who wasted her life cooking. Is that? That's me, I finished. The waste of life who just bought their favorite restaurant. I remembered their exact words because Zara had repeated them, tears streaming down her 13-year-old face. Dad said you chose cooking over us, Mom. Grandma said you were being selfish. Now, standing in this space that had symbolized my exclusion, I felt something shift inside me. Not quite healing but power. The transformation of Mama's table happened with surgical precision. Andre brought in his team and within days, we'd stripped the dining room of its dated charm, replacing it with modern elegance. Exposed brick. Edison lighting. An open kitchen where diners could watch artists at work. But I kept one thing, the reservation book. I pored over it obsessively, studying years of entries. Robert Hayes, party of 8. Linda Hayes, anniversary dinner. The Morrison family celebration. My assistant director, Simone, found me there one evening, surrounded by old reservation records. Chef, you need rest. You've been here 14 hours. Look at this, I said, pointing to an entry from 2 years ago. My daughter's 13th birthday. Derek brought her here with his girlfriend. The notes say they ordered the celebration package. Balloons, cake, the works. Simone's face softened with understanding. You weren't invited. I was working that night. A double shift at the hotel prepping for a banquet. Zara called me during her dinner, crying because I wasn't there. I told her I'd make it up to her. I laughed bitterly. I made her cupcakes from scratch the next day. Red velvet with cream cheese frosting, her favorite. Derek told her they weren't as good as what she'd had at Mama's table. That's cruel, Simone whispered. That's family, I corrected. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. Yasmin, I heard a rumor you bought Mama's table. Call me. We need to talk. I stared at those words. The first time she'd reached out in 8 months, and it wasn't to ask how I was. It was because I'd done something that affected her. I blocked her number. Simone, I said, my voice steady despite the tears threatening to fall. Send invitations to the grand reopening. Make sure one goes to everyone on the ban list. The invitations were masterpieces of passive aggression. Printed on thick cream cardstock with gold embossing, they announced, Heritage Hospitality Group invites you to experience the rebirth of an iconic establishment. Mama's Table reimagined by Chef Yasmin Hayes. My publicist, Keisha, had laughed when she saw them. Girl, you're messy. I love it. I want them to show up, I explained. I want them to see what they missed. What they mocked. And then I want them denied entry. That's cold-blooded, Keisha said approvingly. The press will eat this up. You know that, right? I did. I was counting on it. The responses came within hours. Robert called first, his voice tight. Yasmin. We need to talk. Do we? I asked, examining the new menu Andre had designed. Pan-seared duck breast with bourbon cherry reduction. Lobster mac and cheese with truffle oil. Braised short ribs that fell off the bone. You bought Mama's table? That's our spot, yes. The family's spot. Was I family when you called me a failure at Thanksgiving 3 years ago? I asked conversationally. Was I family when you told Cameron his mother was too busy playing chef to be a real parent? That was, I didn't mean. You meant it, Robert. You all did. Every single one of you meant every word. Derek called next, his lawyer voice in full effect. Yasmin, this is petty. Using a restaurant to get back at people? That's beneath you. What's beneath me, I said slowly, is what you told our children. That I abandoned them. That I chose career over family. When you were the one who filed for divorce, Derek. You left. Not me. Because you were never there. I was building something. My voice rose despite my best efforts. I was trying to create a better life. And how'd that work out? He sneered. Oh wait, you bought a restaurant. Congratulations. Very mature. I hung up on him. My mother showed up at Heritage unannounced 3 days before the grand reopening. She stood in the entrance, her designer purse clutched to her chest, looking older than I remembered. Baby, she said, and I hated how that word still affected me. Can we please talk? Security looked to me for guidance. I nodded, leading her to my office upstairs. A converted storage space I'd turned into a sanctuary of stainless steel and ambition. Nice place, she said, settling into the chair across from my desk. You've done well for yourself. No thanks to you, I replied flatly. She flinched. That's not fair, Yasmin. I've always wanted what's best for you. Really? I opened my laptop, pulling up photos. This is from Cameron's science fair 2 years ago. He won first place. I was there. Were you? I had the church fundraiser. This is from Zara's dance recital. I catered it for free so her school could afford the production. You weren't there either. Yasmin, you know my back. But you made it to Robert's promotion dinner at Mama's table that same weekend, I finished. Funny how your back problems disappear when it's convenient. She stood abruptly. I came here to make peace and you're throwing the past in my face? The past. I laughed. Mom, 2 months ago you told Zara I was a cautionary tale about following foolish dreams. My daughter repeated that to me while crying. She's 15 years old and her grandmother made her feel ashamed of her mother's success. My mother's face crumpled. I never meant. You meant it. Just like you meant it when you testified in Derek's favor during the custody hearing. Unstable work hours, you said. Questionable priorities. Your words helped him get primary custody, Mom. I was trying to help the children. You were taking his side, I said coldly. Now get out of my restaurant. The bandstands. She left without another word and I didn't cry until I heard the door close. Zara appeared in my office that evening, her eyes red-rimmed. At 15 she looked so much like me at that age, all defiance and hidden vulnerability. Grandma called, she said without preamble. She's upset. I set down the inventory reports I'd been reviewing. I imagine she is. Mom, is it true? You banned them from your new restaurant. Yes, I said simply. Zara sat down, pulling her knees to her chest. Dad's furious. He says you're being vindictive. That you're turning us against the family. What do you think? I asked carefully. She was quiet for a long moment, then, I think I remember things he doesn't want me to remember. Like when I was 11 and you were studying for your sommelier certification. You'd stay up until 3 in the morning, practicing after we went to bed. Then wake up at 6 to make us breakfast. You remember that? My voice cracked. I remember everything, Mom. I remember Dad saying you were obsessed. Grandma saying you were neglecting us. Uncle Robert making fun of your fancy cooking at Christmas. She looked up, tears streaming. But I also remember you never missing a single school event. Never forgetting a birthday. Working yourself to exhaustion so we could have everything we needed. Cameron, now 12, appeared in the doorway. I remember too, he said quietly. I remember Dad taking us to Mama's table on your birthday, Mom. You were working a double shift and he made a toast. He said, to freedom from delusion. I hadn't known that. The betrayal hit fresh, sharp as a new blade. Everyone laughed, Cameron continued, his voice breaking. And I asked what it meant. Grandma said it meant you'd finally see sense and give up cooking. But you didn't give up. You won, Mom. You actually won. Zara stood, crossing to embrace me. Ban them all, she whispered fiercely. They don't deserve you. The night of the reopening, Heritage's new location, The reimagined Mama's table glowed like a jewel. Press lined the entrance. Food critics, influencers, and celebrities filled the reservation list. The energy was electric, anticipatory. And right on schedule at 7:30 my family arrived. I watched from the kitchen monitors as Robert approached the host stand, his fiancée on his arm. My mother followed, dressed in her church finest. Derek and his girlfriend. My former in-laws, the Morrisons, looking entitled as ever. Patricia, the manager I'd retained, handled it perfectly. I'm sorry, but your names appear on our exclusion list. We cannot accommodate you this evening. Robert's face reddened. Exclusion list? That's ridiculous. I've been coming here for years. Under previous ownership, Patricia said smoothly. Chef Hayes has implemented new policies. Chef Hayes is my sister, Robert snarled. Get her out here. Now. I was already moving. Not because he demanded it, but because I wanted to see their faces. The moment I appeared in my chef's whites, the lobby went silent. Other diners turned to stare. Someone whispered, "Is that really her?" "Hello, Robert," I said evenly. "Mother." "Derek." My ex-husband stepped forward. "Yasmin, this is absurd. We're family." "Family," I repeated, tasting the word. "Is that what we are?" Because family doesn't mock each other's dreams. Family doesn't testify against each other in custody hearings. Family doesn't celebrate each other's failures. We never, my mother began. Don't, I cut her off. Don't rewrite history because it's now inconvenient. You made your choices. You chose Derek's side. You chose Robert's comfort. You chose judgment over support. These are simply the consequences. Richard Morrison, my former father-in-law, pushed forward. You're making a scene. This is embarrassing. For you, I agreed. Not for me. I'm just enforcing boundaries that should have existed years ago. Security appeared at my subtle signal. Please escort these individuals off the property. The story exploded overnight. Celebrity chef bans family from restaurant, screamed the headlines. Social media erupted into debate. Some called me petty. Most called me a hero. She's living every person's fantasy, one influencer posted. Setting boundaries with toxic family? We love to see it. The restaurant's reservations tripled. People wanted to dine at the place where a woman had finally, publicly chosen herself. But the cost was mounting in ways I hadn't anticipated. Zara's phone blew up with messages from family members. Your mother is out of control. She's tearing this family apart. You need to talk sense into her. Cameron got pulled aside at school by his paternal grandmother, Catherine Morrison, who told him, your mother is mentally unstable. This proves it. My lawyer called with worse news. Derek's filing for full custody. He's citing this incident as evidence of erratic behavior and poor judgment. I sat in my office staring at the legal documents. My hands shook. Not with fear but with rage so pure it felt like fire. Simone found me there an hour later. Chef. They're going after my kids, I said hollowly. I set a boundary and they're trying to take my children. You'll fight it, she said firmly. And you'll win. But would I? I thought of all the years I'd struggled. The double shifts. The missed moments I could never reclaim. The exhaustion that had nearly broken me. And now, when I'd finally made something of myself, when I'd finally demanded respect, they wanted to punish me by destroying what I loved most. That night I called my children. If this gets ugly, I said, if the custody battle gets messy. We're old enough to choose, Sarah interrupted. The courts will listen to us. And Mom? We choose you. We've always chosen you. Cameron's voice joined in. Dad can try whatever he wants. We're not leaving you. I cried then, deep sobs of relief and continued pain. Because even victory felt like loss when it came at such a price. The custody hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks after the restaurant incident. My lawyer, Jerome, prepared me extensively. They're going to paint you as vindictive, unstable, prioritizing revenge over your children's well-being. Let them try, I said with more confidence than I felt. The courtroom was smaller than I'd imagined. Derek sat with his lawyer, looking righteous in his expensive suit. My mother was there to testify on his behalf. So was Robert. The betrayal of it, my own family testifying against me, felt like dying slowly. Derek's lawyer went first. Mr. Morrison, can you describe your ex-wife's recent behavior? She's become obsessed with punishing us, Derek said smoothly. She bought a restaurant specifically because our family frequented it. Then she publicly humiliated us by having us removed. This isn't about business, it's about revenge. And our children are caught in the middle. And you're concerned about their exposure to this behavior? Absolutely. Yasmin has always been impulsive, but this is next level. What kind of message does this send to Zara and Cameron? That it's acceptable to be vindictive? To hold grudges? I watched the judge, trying to gauge her reaction. She was an older black woman with kind eyes but a stern mouth. She revealed nothing. My mother took the stand next. I love my daughter, she began, and I almost laughed at the audacity. But she's changed. The success has gone to her head. She's forgotten what's important. Family, forgiveness, grace. Mrs. Hayes, Derek's lawyer continued, you've spent significant time with your grandchildren. Have they expressed concerns about their mother? They're confused, my mother said carefully. They love her, but they see her anger. Her bitterness. They don't understand why she's so angry all the time. It was a masterful lie, built on a foundation of enough truth to be believable. Then Jerome called Zara to the stand. My 15-year-old daughter walked up with her head high. She wore a simple dress, her natural hair styled beautifully. She looked poised, mature beyond her years. Zara, Jerome began gently, how would you describe your relationship with your mother? And my daughter destroyed them. My mother is my hero, Zara said clearly, her voice carrying through the courtroom. She's the strongest person I know. Derek's lawyer shifted uncomfortably. This wasn't going as planned. Jerome continued. Can you tell the court about your mother's involvement in your life? She's at every school event. Every recital. Every game. She knows my teachers' names, my friends' names, my dreams. Zara's voice grew stronger. When I started my period, she was the one who explained everything. When I got my heart broken last year, she stayed up all night with me. When I wanted to learn to cook, she taught me every technique she knows. And your father? Jerome asked carefully. Zara's jaw tightened. My father is there when it's convenient. He makes promises and breaks them. He criticizes Mom constantly, especially in front of us. He's been doing it our entire lives. Objection. Derek's lawyer stood. This is irrelevant too. It's entirely relevant, the judge interrupted quietly. Continue, young lady. Zara took a breath. 5 years ago, when Mom enrolled in culinary school, Dad told us she was being selfish. That she was abandoning us. But she wasn't. She worked harder than anyone I've ever known. She'd come home exhausted, help us with homework, make us dinner, and then stay up studying until 3 in the morning. I remember her falling asleep at the kitchen table once, Zara continued, tears forming. Her face in her textbook, highlighter still in her hand. Cameron and I covered her with a blanket because we didn't want to wake her. The next morning, she made us pancakes and braided my hair before school like nothing happened. My own tears fell silently. Dad told everyone she was neglecting us, Zara said, her voice hardening. Grandma agreed. Uncle Robert made jokes. But they were lying. They're still lying. About the restaurant incident, Jerome said. How did that affect you? Zara looked directly at her father. I was proud of her. Finally, someone stood up to them. Finally, someone said, you don't get to treat me like garbage and still benefit from my success. That's not vindictive. That's self-respect. The judge's expression softened slightly. Cameron testified next. At 12, he was nervous but determined. My dad says Mom is angry all the time, but she's not. He's hurt. There's a difference. The judge took 24 hours to deliberate. Those were the longest hours of my life. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Andre ran both restaurants while I paced my apartment, imagining worst-case scenarios. When we returned to court, the judge looked tired. I've reviewed the testimony, the evidence, and the circumstances carefully, she began. This case represents a fundamental misunderstanding of boundaries versus vindictiveness. My heart hammered. Ms. Hayes established a business boundary with individuals who, by multiple accounts including her own children, have been consistently dismissive and cruel to her. That is her right as a business owner. The judge looked at Derek. Mr. Morrison, your attempt to weaponize this decision in a custody battle is frankly concerning. Derek's face went white. The children have spoken clearly about their preferences and their observations. They're old enough for their voices to carry significant weight. He turned to me. Ms. Hayes, the custody arrangement remains as is. This petition is denied. Relief hit me so hard I nearly collapsed. Jerome caught my arm, steadying me. But the judge wasn't finished. However, I want to say something off the record. She removed her glasses. I've presided over family court for 23 years. I've seen every kind of parental conflict imaginable. And Ms. Hayes, what you're doing, building success while maintaining your relationship with your children, that's not just admirable. It's necessary. He looked at my mother, at Robert, at Derek. To the family members present, you had years to support this woman. You chose mockery. You chose judgment. And now that she's successful, you're trying to punish her for setting boundaries. That speaks to your character, not hers. The courtroom was silent. But here's what troubles me, the judge continued, her voice softer. Ms. Hayes, you've won this battle. You've proven yourself. You've protected your children. But I see the pain in your eyes. The exhaustion. And I wonder, when does the victory start feeling like healing? That question haunted me as we left the courthouse. When does victory feel like healing? 6 months after the custody hearing, Heritage had 3 locations. My cookbook won a James Beard Award. I'd been featured in every major publication. By every measurable standard I'd won. But on a Tuesday evening, alone in my flagship restaurant after closing, I found myself crying over a pot of my grandmother's gumbo recipe. The one I'd learned before she died, before my mother had poisoned my family against me. Zara found me there, her college acceptance letter in hand. Mom, I got in. Full scholarship to culinary school. I should have been ecstatic. Instead, I felt something break inside me. Baby, I whispered, promise me something. Promise me you'll never have to fight your family for permission to exist. Promise me you'll never know what it's like to succeed and still feel like you've lost everything that matters. She knelt beside me, this beautiful girl who'd inherited my passion and none of my pain. Mom, what's wrong? You won. You proved them all wrong. Did I? I asked. Because Cameron told me yesterday that Grandma tried to contact him. She wants reconciliation now that the dust has settled. Robert sent flowers to the restaurant with a card that said, "Can we move past this?" What did you say? I didn't respond. Because I realized something. I'm not angry anymore. I'm just tired. So incredibly tired of being the villain in their story when I only ever tried to be the hero of my own. The truth was brutal. Success hadn't healed me. The restaurant empire, the accolades, the vindication, none of it filled the hole where family should have been. I spent 5 years building an empire to prove I was worthy, I continued. And now I have it all. But Mom's still gone. Robert still doesn't understand what he took from me. Derek still believes he was the victim. And I'm standing in a Michelin-starred restaurant, crying into my grandmother's gumbo because I'd traded all, every single achievement, for a family that had just believed in me from the start. Zara wrapped her arms around me. They're lost, Mom. We believe in you. I know, I said. But sometimes, baby, knowing you're right doesn't stop it from hurting. Sometimes winning still feels like losing. And that's the part nobody tells you about cutting off toxic family. You don't just lose them. You lose the dream of what they could have been. Should have been. That night I wrote a letter I'd never send, to my mother, my brother, my ex-husband. I told them everything. The pain, the betrayal, the small deaths of hope I'd experienced each time they chose cruelty over support. I told them about the nightmares where I'm still in that kitchen, flour-dusted and desperate for validation, watching them laugh at my dreams. I told them the truth that would never change anything. I'd built an empire to prove my worth to people who'd already decided I had none. And even now, with everything I'd achieved, that little girl inside me still waited for her mother to say, "I'm proud of you." He never would. The restaurant thrived. My children flourished. My career soared to heights I'd barely dared imagine. But late at night, in the quiet moments between success and sleep, I grieved. Not for who they were, but for who I'd needed them to be. That's the real cost of family betrayal that nobody discusses. You don't just lose the people. You lose the possibility of them. And no amount of Michelin stars can fill that void. I'd become a celebrity chef. I'd banned them from my empire. I'd won every battle that mattered. But some wounds don't heal with victory. Some losses can't be reconciled with success. And some families destroy you so thoroughly that even your triumph tastes like ash. The restaurant closed at midnight. I locked the doors, turned off the lights, and drove home past the neighborhood where I grew up, where my mother still lived, where Robert probably sat with his family, where none of them understood that their cruelty had cost me something victory could never restore. The simple human need to be loved by the people who were supposed to love you unconditionally. I'd won everything. And I'd still lost what mattered most. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe and share. Have you ever had to choose between your dreams and toxic family expectations? Share your story in the comments below. And remember, your worth isn't determined by people who refuse to see your value. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is succeed without their approval, even when that success can't heal the wounds they left behind.